Hello everyone, my name is Eurico Costa, and together with Michael Cavey, we will be presenting on the JAD, or Joint Application Development or Design Elicitation Technique. So what are JAD sessions? It is known as Joint Application Development or Design. In my experience, better known as the latter than the former. It's a requirements gathering technique used often in the consulting world and is mostly used to gather business or functional requirements for a given solution. It is intended to be a way to gather the organization's subject matter experts and users on a given business domain under the same roof to gather information and discuss ideas to solve a specific problem. The method was developed by IBM in the late 1970s, and it is still a great way to gather requirements directly from users and very much used today. If done right, some literature on the subject claims that it can reduce up to 50% of the natural scope creep that tends to happen in software implementations. To be successful, a JAD session is usually a carefully planned meeting with 10 to 20 stakeholders participating and one facilitator, who is usually an outside consultant. The facilitator is usually responsible for establishing the meeting agenda well ahead of time and for guiding the discussion. He cannot, however, join as a participant or give any opinions and ideas during the session. The facilitator has to be neutral during this event. One or two scribes are responsible for recording all notes and assist with any other needs that may come up during the session, like taking copies, getting more flip charts, more markers, things like that. A JAD session may take hours, days, or weeks until all the information is gathered and all the issues are solved. In my experience, it usually takes 2 to 3 days, or 2 to 5 days, spread out through several sessions to get it done. Michael will now address the pros and cons of this elicitation technique.
Thank you, Enrico. Hello, my name is Michael Cavey, and I will be discussing the advantages and disadvantages of the JAD elicitation technique or method. On the upside, JAD is a quick, rapid-fire extraction of problems and solutions from all the key stakeholders in real time. It facilitates, even forces, decision-making and leads to the most probable best solution because those with experience and expertise on the subject are present. A JAD meeting is well structured, organized, formatted, and documented. JAD works well within the agile development method. JAD is not perfect, however. There are some disadvantages. On the downside, the JAD process cannot validate solutions within the time constraints of a meeting, which ends with only the best proposal or direction. Requiring a large amount of experience and expertise can also be a disadvantage. Strong personalities may win over choosing the best idea, and an open discussion forum with bosses present can limit challenges from subordinates. Often, the needs of the company or user surpass technical issues. This happens when cost wins the day, or when user demands are placed above needed change. Whatever the difficulties, a good JAD facilitator can avoid these obstacles by redirecting participants away from personal goals and toward the best solution. Now, Enrico will follow up with some additional recommendations.
Thank you, Michael. In my career, I have been involved in several JAD sessions during all the implementations that I've already done. So the following recommendations were taking a little bit from my experience and also from the literature that I was able to research for this presentation. So these are just a few things to take in mind when using this elicitation technique. So JAD sessions should be held away from the user's usual work location. They need to be focused and committed to this activity. So you'd want to hold them in a location where the participants are not constantly being interrupted to deal with their own work problems. This may be difficult because for a JAD session to be successful, the very best resources need to be available. And it is sometimes very hard to have buy-in from management to take their best resources away from work for an extended period of time, even days at a time. So, and also select participants based on how much they can contribute to the session's objectives, which usually means selecting the very best subject matter experts in the organization. Prepare the meeting room in a U fashion, the tables in a U fashion, so that all users may see each other as ideas and topics are discussed and materials are projected or ideas whiteboarded. Sometimes a user hiring the hierarchy may take over the meeting, and users may feel reluctant to challenge their ideas. Avoid this at every cost. A variation of a JAD session called an electronic JAD session or EJAD can be used in these occasions where ideas are submitted anonymously to the facilitator and electronically and discussed during the session. The literature all claims that this method can reduce the length of a JAD session in 50 to 80% of the time needed to conclude a JAD session. You need to carefully prepare a JAD session and prepare it as if you'd be preparing for an interview by developing a list of focused open questions to guide the discussion and gather information required to meet your objectives. Remember, open questions are very important because you want to have the users discuss and develop an idea. Closed questions or leading questions may suggest that the facilitator is actually putting his own ideas or influence into the JAD session. So be careful with that. Make sure everyone knows what's expected of them well ahead of time so that they can bring any required documents, manuals, presentations, or even have time to ponder and develop ideas to be discussed during the session. This is essential so they're prepared and the discussion flows as it needs to. You need to set ground rules around how the discussion unfolds to avoid, for example, what we already discussed, people taking over the whole discussion. This is very important. And at the end of the session, always produce a post-session report where all the collected information is gathered, as well as post-session action items are recorded as a reminder to those that are responsible to complete these action items. So for our elicitation technique, holding a JAD session was something that was logistically difficult to organize, but I gathered 3 of my BYU Idaho Online student acquaintances who also use iLearn on a daily platform, on a daily basis, as we all do. And I asked them to have a small 1-hour JAD session to discuss the requirements for a scheduler like the one in our selected project. It is very difficult to have a JAD session over the phone, but I prepared a set of questions to get the discussion going, such as how do you currently organize your time to do schoolwork without a scheduler? And how would you use a scheduler to help you manage your schoolwork? What functionalities would you like to see in a scheduler? Which of the functions listed would be most useful to you, etc. So what follows is not by any means a very extensive list of all the requirements gathered or of all the discussions we had, but it is a sample of the requirements that came out of our discussion. For example, the scheduler should integrate with a calendar such as Google Calendar or the iCalendar in a mobile phone, in an iPhone. A scheduler should be cross-platform, so should be available both on mobile devices as well as desktop computers. This is not a technical requirement itself. We're not talking about it needs to be developed as a native application or anything like that, but it is something that it's a desire from the users and it's a business requirement. A scheduler should also send notifications to users at configurable times before an assignment is due. Schedulers should use estimated completion time to warn the user when to start working on it and when due time date is becoming too close, etc. It is very important that when in a JAD session that we stay at the business or functional level, and that's what we try to do here. Any technical details that may comes out after the analysis of the requirements when we start studying how to really implement those requirements. So this is very important that we stay at this level. So we hope that this presentation provides a lot of information and some good information about what JAD sessions are. And by all means, please reply to the post of this presentation if you have any questions about JAD sessions. And this last slide of the presentation contains all the works that we used during our research and that were cited in this presentation. Thank you.